This offseason just won't quit, man. And we just got ourselves a hell of a point guard swap in the Eastern Conference. To me, the Celtics are taking a risk going from Isaiah Thomas to Kyrie Irving, as well as just the entire trade being a risk. But before I dive into that, let me talk about why I do understand why the Celtics would move Isaiah Thomas. He's 5'9", he's very reliant on his athleticism to get by defenders, finish at the rim, draw contact where he can get to the free throw line. Combine that with his hip injury, with the impending max contract the Celtics are going to have to offer the guy. And I can understand wanting someone like Kyrie Irving, who is younger, has one more year left in his contract before you'd throw the max at him. And I think we would all agree he hasn't hit his ceiling just yet. But the first risk I feel with this move for the Celtics is there's very little evidence that says Kyrie Irving is good and contributes to winning basketball when LeBron James is not on the floor. The Cavaliers have struggled when LeBron has sat pretty much since LeBron got there. Their record when James doesn't play sucks. And before LeBron even arrived, the Cavaliers never had a winning culture, and Kyrie Irving was the top dude in that. Now, another criticism I have of him is his playmaking, but the Celtics do have a couple of good playmakers themselves, one with Marcus Smart, another being Al Horford, who's one of the best passing big guys in the NBA. But people will tell you that with Kyrie's, 5 assists a game, and never being a guy who's really looking for his teammates like that, can he be the guy who can really lead an offense for the Celtics? It's a tough question. But I do think there is a flip side to it, which is Isaiah Thomas is not a great playmaker either, so you could just slot Kyrie Irving into Brad Stevens' offense, and it could be okay. But here's one counter to that I could make is the Celtics used Isaiah Thomas off-ball the majority of the time. Sure, he had his on-ball moments, one-on-ones, pick and rolls like that, but he was really moving off of screens. This requires you to be in really good shape. Is Kyrie Irving ready to sprint across the floor where he can catch the ball and then immediately rise up for a shot? I mean, Ty Lue, his offense was pretty simple compared to Brad Stevens. Is Kyrie going to be able to adjust to Stevens? Is Stevens going to be able to and willing to adjust to Kyrie Irving? There's going to be an unknown there that we're just going to have to see. But yeah, I think you could look at the season Isaiah Thomas just had for the Celtics and you can say, well, Kyrie has Isaiah's shooting ability, he's got his abilities to beat defenders one-on-one. I just don't know if the play style in terms of off-ball versus on-ball is going to be an immediate click for Kyrie Irving, because I don't think he's used to that style of play. The other fear I have is with their other recent acquisition this offseason, Gordon Hayward. Hayward was the number one option in Utah for the past few seasons. Kyrie Irving wants to be a number one option, and you're having these two guys come together, and they've never played a single minute together. I mean, typically NBA teams, they build it up slowly, they make a few moves here and there, and everybody's pretty comfortable with the hierarchy of who takes the most shots, who's thought of as more of a playmaker. We don't know what the hell is going to happen. These two are coming from drastically different situations. How long is it going to take them to mesh their games together? That's going to be a question. And I also have questions about one of the guys the Celtics lost in the trade, and that be Jay Crowder. Sure, his numbers don't jump out at you. It's 12, 13 points a game, about 5 rebounds a game. But to me, Crowder's versatility, defense, even if it's dropped off a little bit, and his abilities just as an overall two-way player are going to be really difficult to replace. I mean, defensively, I would say he can defend multiple positions. His natural position is the small forward spot, but if he gets switched onto a shooting guard or a power forward or some point guards, I think he can be A-okay. And when we're looking at his three-point shot, the dude shot 40% from outside this previous season, on top of around 35% in the playoffs. That constant floor spacing is very valuable, and Crowder is one of the most coveted type of players in today's NBA, the wing player who can defend multiple positions, play the small ball 4, and can shoot threes. He's constantly making an impact. There was one game against the Chicago Bulls in round 1 where, from a shooting standpoint, he was awful. He was like 2 for 11 or something. And yet his net rating for the game was still positive because even if Crowder's not making an obvious impact on the game, he's constantly providing spacing, he's playing good defense, he's giving you toughness, he's going to grab 6 or 7 rebounds a game on top of it. He's just a really quality two-way player, and he was also on a fantastic contract. And I think the Celtics are going to have a tough time replacing everything that Crowder did for them. Now, I don't think it's impossible, but I think asking some of these young dudes to do it, that's tough. I think there's a chance Jaylen Brown might end up starting for them. I like Jaylen, I like his potential. Do we think in his second year he's going to provide the impact that Jay Crowder provided as a multi-position defender who was always providing spacing? He could, but I'm weary of that one. The other one's Jason Tatum. I've been seeing a lot of people just acting like Tatum's going to come in right away and make an impact. Listen, very rarely do rookies actually help their team win basketball games. So I'm going to be concerned that Jason Tatum, he might have a tough time on defense. Maybe the three-point shot isn't ready. He's not going to recognize what to do all the time versus NBA defenses. I don't think we can just assume that Tatum and Brown are going to be ready to go. The one guy who I would give the chance to, however, is Marcus Morris, who the Celtics acquired in the Avery Bradley trade. I would say Morris is a similar player to Jay Crowder. Offensively, he has some abilities in terms of attacking the rim, being a cutter. At times he can post up, especially if he has a switch on a smaller guy. Defensively, Morris, he's pretty good, and I would say he's another guy who can defend multiple positions. And his three-point shot, it's been up and down his entire NBA career. At times he's shot nearly 40% from three. This previous season he shot 33%. Now I have to assume he's going to get himself more open looks because the Celtics just have more shooters, whereas that could be kind of a problem for the Pistons, especially with a guy like Al Horford who's a shooting center opposed to Andre Drummond who's never going to create spacing for your team. So I think Morris's offense can see an uptick for the Celtics, and then defensively we're going to see him against Rudy Gay for a little bit here. He's good on defense. He can defend some perimeter players, but he also has the strength and toughness to go up against some bigger bodies as well. Do I think he can replace Jay Crowder? No, I think I have worries about his three-point shot, but I think Morris would be the best bet for them recreating what Jay Crowder did for them. But the other thing we got to talk about with this trade is the draft pick. The Brooklyn Nets, the loss of Brook Lopez could be so drastic for them that all the additions they made won't matter, because Brook Lopez offensively was really good for them, especially with his three-point shot coming alive. But at the same time, Jeremy Lin, when he was healthy last season for them, they were good. If you go over the last month of the season for them where Jeremy Lin was playing, they did acquire D'Angelo Russell, who could be seeing an immediate improvement just because I have to assume he's going to have the ball in his hands more often. I like Kenny Atkinson as a head coach to spread the floor, and there is a chance that D'Angelo could help the Nets win a few more games. There was also the acquisition of DeMarre Carroll, who was disappointing in his time with Toronto, but I do think in a smaller role, being basically just a defender and a three-point shooter, I think Carroll can help out the spacing, and he can just make these guys a bit better of a defensive team on the perimeter. They also acquired Alan Crabb, who can be a good shooter. There is a chance that Brooklyn will not be the worst team in the league. Maybe they'll end up with like the 5th or 6th pick. And if that's the case, then this is a little more okay if you're the Celtics. Now, if you end up losing out on the number 1 overall pick because of this trade, and you lose out on a Michael Porter or a Marvin Bagley, then that's going to be pretty bad. But there is a chance that there are going to be a few teams that are worse than the Nets this season. I think another reason why they would make this move is because they have the insurance of the Lakers pick, which we're going to watch Lonzo Ball make some nice passes for this one. If the Lakers finish between number 2 and number 5 with their draft pick, the Celtics get the pick. If they finish outside of that, so if they get number 1 or if they get lower than 5, then the Celtics will get the better of the Philadelphia or Sacramento Kings pick next season, which is confusing as hell. Number 1, they've screwed themselves out of getting a number 1 overall pick at all, because those Philadelphia and Kings picks can also not be the number 1 overall selection. We're just going to have to see where these picks end up. It could end up working out, or they could get some picks that are lower than they envisioned. But if I can talk about Cleveland for a second, you may have given LeBron James a better reason to stay in the Cavaliers. Because I think Isaiah Thomas can be the scorer next to him. Jay Crowder is the type of wing player that Cleveland has needed for a while now. Someone who can help them out against the Warriors, although I still would not pick them to win. But then also because of the Brooklyn pick, they could trade that pick for some sort of player or players that could convince LeBron to stay. And if he stays, then that is not good news for any Eastern Conference team. So, yeah, I think there are some concerns with acquiring Kyrie Irving. But the one thing that should be remembered is Kyrie is supremely talented. I think with more responsibility, he could see an uptick in just his ability to win basketball games. I think he has another level to get to as a playmaker. I think Brad Stevens will be great for him. But there are definitely a few things that I'm weary of. We're just going to have to see what happens.